Good morning, it's Leanne Peters here. I'm from templeofbalance.com.au, Temple of Balance on Facebook and Temple of Balance on YouTube. And I'm just stopping by as a bit of an artist's reflection today. It's freezing, by the way. It's so cold. I've had to plug my heater back in. And yeah, so it feels a bit cool this morning, but I've been doing a lot of reflecting, and I thought I'd come and share almost like a bit of a diary sort of thing. This feels to be like a really important milestone for me, so maybe something that I share might help or might inspire you, but it feels good for me to be able to verbalise, or hopefully it will. I haven't verbalised yet. I've been doing a lot of writing in my journal and a lot of thinking, a lot of reflecting. So what brings me up to here is that this is the morning of my very first major solo art exhibition, which opens this afternoon. And it feels very interesting to be at this point. It feels like a milestone on my path, on my road, of the road that is my life's path. And I feel like I'm carving out this milestone like it's a precious ancient stone, a tribal sort of stone with spirals and circles, and it feels beautiful, like a monumental moment today. So I want to verbalise what I'm feeling, but also think of this as like a personal diary of me verbally expressing. Oh, Sharon, I'm so sorry that your mum passed away yesterday. Sending you lots of love and condolences. So, yeah, it's an interesting space to be in. You know, I think about especially the journey of the last 3 years. So I've been doing visual arts for a very long time, since high school. So since the mid to late 80s. So visual arts, painting, drawing, I've been doing for a very long time. And pottery I've been doing for over 7 years. And 3 years ago, so I'm taking back to this time 3 years ago, December 2018. And it was just a couple of months before my workshop burned down. And so I was, you know, making cups and just little bits and pieces of things. And I was just thinking of pottery as a hobby, but a hobby, of course, that I love, because hobbies we love. We should love, hopefully. So, and then fast forward a couple of months, and then a fire burned down my workshop just across here, and I was stopped in my tracks pretty much, and really forced to really think seriously about where pottery fits into my life. Did I want to continue it? Because everything was burned. My kilns were burned out. My glaze recipes gone. A lot of my tools. In fact, everything that was in the workshop. There was one thing that survived, which was a pair of raku tongs, which got very rusty. But they were the only things that really survived the fire. So I had, I guess, I had to question, you know, do I want to keep going with pottery? You know, is pottery going to continue to be a part of my life? I could have taken that fire as a way to stop doing pottery, for example. So I asked myself that question once I got over the shock of the fire, and I didn't have to think about it for long, because I knew that I could not imagine my life without clay and without pottery. So then I decided very soon after the fire that I have to continue doing pottery, and I'm going to take the fire as an opportunity to upgrade, to get a bigger kiln, to upgrade my power supply so I could fire hotter, so I could make porcelain things if I want to. So I upgraded from single phase to 3-phase power. We were so lucky that we live in an older area, and 3-phase power was literally a power pole right outside my house. So you know, usually if people want to put on 3-phase power in a new area, they have to pay for the power to come through. So it was literally outside our door. I just needed to get the electrician to upgrade my meter box that goes into the house, and then we were hooked up. So in 9 months, we went through an extensive rebuild and upgrade of power supply and getting things stocked back up again. And then I went through probably a 6-month learning phase of testing the kiln and pushing my boundaries in that way. On a technical side, I had to remake glazes because all my glaze recipes burned in the fire, so I had no glaze recipes. They were all on paper and just, you know, burned up. So everything really had to start from scratch, and it was a very uncomfortable time, I must say. It was quite frustrating at times because, you know, I'd fire the kiln up and the kiln was going about 100 degrees hotter than what it said. So, you know, I had kiln shelves warp, I had pieces flopping and folding because it got so hot in the kiln. So, you know, it's been not without its tests and challenges, that's for sure. And then so a year ago, just excuse the mess of my studio here, but a year ago I wrote this vision board solo exhibition. I wrote it on the 20th of November 2020, and I decided that I wanted to really test myself and work towards a solo exhibition of some sort to do with ceramics, because there's something about ceramics for me. I feel like it's a great way where I can express myself, and there's something very amazing about the tactile nature of clay. So to be able to sculpt like these little wizards, we can see here behind me the start of another wizard collection, but I just love sculpting with clay, and I love the challenge of clay, and I love how it works for me. But I have, you know, 7 years of technical experience now. There is just something about clay that takes me to a deeper level than a visual piece of art. So I love drawing, I love painting, don't get me wrong, I love it. And the process of making it is fun, and the end result can be amazingly surprising. But you can't really touch and play and feel the finished piece of visual art. I mean, it's nice, you know, like this phoenix up here. I love that. I love looking at it. And but clay, you know, we can touch it. We can touch the clay. I mean, this is not finished, it's still greenware, but it can be touched. When the glaze is done, you can feel the shininess or the smoothness of the glaze. You know, I often sit with pieces, and sometimes they're just little pieces, like a little bird that I love to play with, just like a crystal. You know what it's like to hold a crystal. Well, to me, it's the same sort of thing with clay or with ceramics once it's finished. But the difference is that I actually made that thing out of a little chunk of clay. It was nothing. It was just mud. It was literally mud before that alchemical process of turning it into something. So touching it, even the necklaces I wear, I've made out of clay. I find myself often just sitting there feeling the glaze and feeling that, the raw parts of clay. There is just something nice about it, very similar to feeling, you know, those really nice crystals that we might be attracted to. So clay seems to be a way for me to really be able to express myself. And I find the challenge of clay, that I'm really only limited by my imagination, literally, I find that really exciting. So there is something very constrictive about using a piece of paper or a canvas to paint or draw. Even though it's a great thing to do, I still love it. But it's still limited into the space of the paper or the canvas or whatever it is. There is something flat about visual arts. Whereas with clay, it's tactile, it's three-dimensional, and really there are no limitations except for my own imagination. Corey, my husband, jokes now and says that if I could make a house out of ceramics, I would. And yes, I probably would. That's kind of the space I'm in right now, where I just want to really challenge and really push myself with the medium of clay. It is incredible to work with. So the last 7 years has been me really getting familiar with clay itself. I think the first sort of 4 years was me developing just my, understanding clay. It's a tricky thing to understand because it shrinks, it warps, the kiln is unpredictable. A good thing about visual arts is that I can pick up, some red paint. I can pick up some red paint, paint a line, and it will stay red. Whereas I can pick up some red underglaze or red glaze, paint it on my ceramics, put it in the kiln up to 1200 degrees Celsius, and it could come out black. It could come out any sort of weird thing, and the piece can warp, it shrinks. So there's a lot of technical things that are really important to know about clay. But I feel, I think another reason I know that I'm sort of, not that I'm an expert technically, but I feel like I've reached some sort of, I don't know if pinnacle, but some sort of stage with my technical relationship with clay is, I could roll out a coil to put around a pot, like, let's say this was the top of a pot. I can now roll out a coil and instinctively just make the coil the right size. And it happens all the time. So I might be trying to feel a piece like quite big, and I can just instinctively roll out a coil like a sausage of clay. And so many times, probably 8 times out of 10, it is the exact right size, and I haven't even really thought about it. So this is where I also know personally that I have grown a lot technically with the clay, which kind of makes sense to be where I am today, where I can now push myself into making big and new things and challenging things that I've never made before, because I've got the technical things, the basic things, fairly well covered. Not completely covered, but fairly well covered. So, so the last 4 months I've been making for my first solo exhibition that opens today. It's all themed around raptors and owls, because the setting where it's been held, the exhibition, is at a raptor refuge, which is this great place that is like a refuge for raptors in our island state of Tasmania. So Craig, who runs and owns and started the Raptor Refuge some years ago, he gets phone calls from eagles that are injured, or hawks or falcons or whatever, owls that have been hit by a car or run into power lines or what have you, and he looks after them and, if possible, brings them up to health and releases them back into the wild. There are some that can't be released into the wild because their wings might be damaged or what have you, so then they become residents of the Raptor Refuge. So there are, like enclosures with eagles and owls and falcons and hawks, and it's a beautiful grounds and setting. So it's really exciting for me to be collaborating with the Raptor Refuge to present my first solo exhibition. So the last 4 months I've been making 153 things, which is very exciting to go into this exhibition. 6 of the pieces are major work, so the 6 are every part of those 6 were challenging, and they are large pieces and they're outdoor pieces. So later today I'm going to take you on a walkthrough through the exhibition at the Raptor Refuge. So make sure, if you want to see that, have a look over at my Leanne Peters Facebook page, and I'll be live streaming there in a few hours, several hours from now, towards the end of the day, my time, and I'll walk through and share what I have made. But I just wanted to really sort of touch base. I'm not really one to boast about myself, but I really feel today I really want to enjoy the fruits of my labour and my hard work, and it has been a lot of hard work, not only to make for this exhibition, but also that has led me to here really since, 3 years ago, since that fire. That has been really where things have accelerated, and really I've pushed myself. Because I've called this the diary of an artist, I did get my diary out you know, and I've made a water feature like this, and this is, you know, the SketchUp. How am I going to do it? How am I going to put the pump through? This was on the 19th of August. What size can it be? How am I going to figure all that out? Same with the bird bath that became part of the exhibition too. So I've worked a lot actually with my diary here. I only really have one for my creating, you know, for my ceramics. But, you know, even this eagle I made, and as you can see, all the scribbles and sketches. This was the 31st of August. Eagle on a post in 2 parts, but don't make it too thick. Don't make the body too short, which I happen to do sometimes. How am I going to join the bird together? How long it took me to make, which sort of clay I used. And so where I was going to cut, because I purposefully made this eagle taller than the inside of my kiln, because I wanted to figure out how I could make it in 2 parts and then join the 2 parts together so that they would fit, because remember, clay shrinks and it warps. So, you know, I could make a full eagle, cut the thing off, you know, fire them separately. But then if I don't look after how I'm firing or drying that piece, the neck part may warp differently or at a different rate to the neck on the body of the eagle, and then I go to put them together and the lid doesn't fit, basically. The big lid of the big eagle jar doesn't fit. So I had to really think about, and I made a little house for the head part, and I made a little lid for the body part so that they could keep their shape, hopefully, although it's all still unpredictable. So then hopefully they would lock back into place. So as you could imagine, I was extremely excited when my eagle head fit into the eagle body, that was successful. So I'll show you the eagle anyway later today when I do the walkthrough. But this is sort of, you know, the nutting out, and this doesn't include, you know, being up at 3 a.m. trying to figure it out in my head. And then the actual building, which took, you know, actually took 14.5 hours, that particular eagle just to make. But it's such an exciting process. If you thought about connecting with clay, I highly recommend it. It's fantastic. It is for me anyway. So let's draw a card for this beautiful day. It's the 4th of December here, 2021. It's the morning of my very first major solo exhibition in ceramics. And I have also secured a solo exhibition for next year too. Also, Tasmanian Raptors it will be, but it will have some visual art. So I'll be doing some paintings and drawings, which is interesting. So I've never exhibited those either before. So let's pull a card for this moment, and I trust that something that, whatever it is that's pulled, also supports you at this time. So what do we need to know about this moment, this auspicious milestone moment? And it feels to me like a great cause for celebration, a great cause for appreciation of the journey past, what we have been through, what I have been through, perhaps what you've been through to get to this point in your life, and really feeling our feet firmly planted in this moment on the ground, in where we find ourselves. As for me, I'm carving out at this milestone where I'll be able to, you know, in 1, 10, 20 years' time, look back on this moment and this day as being an important, pivotal moment on my path, especially as an artist. And just like the fire was a devastating but absolutely pivotal part of that journey too. And I knew once I got past the shock of the fire, and I was healing through that, which actually I made a lot of the healing cards during that 9 months of shock and processing everything. That was a massive milestone, and I knew from something the way that the fire happened was just so weird. It was just strange. I mean, it was so strange, the fire, that Corey, my husband, because I go to bed early, he goes to bed late. I get up early, he gets up late. It just works for us and our bodies and things and our lifestyle. So I went to bed and I said, could you please just check on the shed, make sure all is okay, you know. So he came down, he literally checked. It was dark. There was no little spark of any flame or anything. The door was open in the workshop. And within half an hour, this shed was fully ablaze. So it was so strange, and even just the timing of everything, that I knew that for something so huge, so expensive, because I didn't have insurance. Well, I had building insurance, but it wasn't worth claiming because I have such a high excess. So, like, literally, I had to put money back into the rebuild. There was definitely no insurance at all covering that. And I had wonderful support from people. Okay, so let's pull a card. What do the majority of us need to know at this really important moment? This milestone, this important pivotal moment in our life. Yes, it's the journey, card 42. It's in the action category here. And I love this card. You probably recognise it from the original deck. And it says, journey forward, life's path, keep moving, the unknown, trust in the steps that you're taking, don't give up, take action and walk your path. And there were many, many times over this past 3 years, or a bit less, that I wanted to give up, or I considered giving up. And I think it's important to ask ourselves and check in periodically to make sure that our heart is still in what we're doing, or our heart is still in a certain situation in our life. So I think it's really important to sort of take stock and spend, you know, a few times a year. I tend to do it around my birthday, also around the new year, the change of the new year, and also at other points in the year, to really check in and make sure I still want to be doing this. You know, like when the fire happened, I could have taken that as just like, okay, let's just close the door on ceramics. But I knew that, like, just even thinking that, I knew straight away my life, I could not imagine my life without ceramics. So I think it's good to, you know, to question things for ourselves. And I think it's healthy to have moments where we might consider giving up. You know, is this really what we want to do? Is our heart really into this? And we might decide that, actually, no, my heart's not in this anymore. And then we can do something about it. But we might also decide, hey, actually, no, I feel stronger about this than I did before, just by asking myself that question. So I think it's really important and healthy to recognize those moments when it just gets a bit hard, and really sitting in, do we want to proceed? Do we want to continue with this thing? So this is about us. This is us walking our path, or she's sort of sitting. We're sitting, we're moving, we're creeping towards, or up our path towards this door into the unknown. So this is about our journey into the unknown. It has this rainbow energy, a bit like a keyhole here around it. And this always feels to me like our cheer squad standing here on the edges of our path. You know, when we'd cheer our kids on at school when they're running the marathon, and we'd be standing on the side of the run of the path, the marathon path, where they'd be running, and we'd be going, yay, and waving flags or whatever, and cheering, clapping for our child or our grandchild, or, you know, running that marathon. Well, this is like for us. This is our own personal cheer squad today. Our loved ones in spirit, those who are showing up as well, those who show up in our life at this time, cheering us on, celebrating with us this milestone, this point that we've reached in our life. And, you know, our loved ones in spirit, especially those who can't be with us in these special occasions and these special moments. They are there watching on from the sidelines, cheering us on. And in fact, they have been cheering us on the whole time. But they are here today cheering us on. So we have our cheer squad, we have our support here on either side of our path, but they can't walk our path for us. It is up to us to walk our path. And in fact, like for me, I feel uncomfortable thinking about being in the spotlight, because I don't like being in the spotlight at all. But I've decided I'm going to just enjoy it today, because this is a really important, pivotal moment, a milestone on my path as an artist. So I need to also enjoy the highs and the fruits of my labour, and those that do want to celebrate and acknowledge that with me. So I'm going to enjoy those people on the sidelines cheering me on, and as I make my way towards the unknown, because this might be, you know, enjoying the fruits of our labour and our hard work. It may be in some ways a celebration that also represents the completion of a phase, but it also represents a new beginning, because this is the start of something new on our journey. So we have taken the action. We have not given up as we've walked that path. We have taken the action. We have worked incredibly hard to get to this point. And, you know, let's enjoy the fruits of our labour, the celebrations, the acknowledgement that may come our way at this time. So let's keep moving the journey. So maybe something in that resonates with you. I know it absolutely resonates with me, and you know, usually I'm sharing about my experience, because I feel that's an important way of teaching and sharing, and potentially you learning. But I do feel this is one of those probably one-off, very rare videos where I just feel like it's almost like a diary about the point that I've reached in my life. And it's been important for me to sit here and verbalise, because I have been writing about it and I have been thinking about it, and I want to really enjoy this day. So the sun looks like it's coming out, so hopefully this comes out for the afternoon. There is forecast a bit of snow, so, you know, hopefully the weather's kind. That would just be the cherry on top. So thank you. I will be walking through my exhibition. Corey's going to be holding the camera, and hopefully I'll be just talking about a few things. So that'll be later today. That's going to be in for about 7-ish hours from now, so quite a long time. So if you miss it, you can catch the replay. And I think that's all I really need to say. Thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting my work, and thank you for your encouraging words. Yeah, I'm very, very grateful for this experience and for your presence in it. If that's something that you like to be a part of, then that's wonderful. And we'll see what today brings. So thank you so much, and I will connect with you a bit later. Namaste. Lots to bask in and enjoy. Thanks, guys. Namaste.